So we've come to chapter 8, which is fundamental rights. Um, this chapter is gonna be a bit long because fundamental rights is very much important. So to make sure that you understand more, and more informations are important, and it can come in any form of question. So that's why I feel that fundamental right is important, so I made it long. Now comes the fundamental rights. So the fundamental rights is are enshrined in part 3 of the Constitution from the Articles 12 to 35, and it's also rightly described as the Magna Carta of India. And fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Constitution to all persons without any discrimination. That means even you who is listening to what I'm saying, you guys are also guaranteed, fundamental rights by the Constitution. Even I am being guaranteed. So, what is Magna Carta? It's a Charter of Rights, okay, which was issued by King John of England in 1215. Just think, in 1215, the king was issuing a Charter of Rights, where it was a document, the first document, okay, which writes with which writes that the fundamental rights of citizen is very much important, and he's considering it. That's why he mentioned it in his book. So that's why we say the fundamental rights is also it's Magna Carta of India. And next is Article 12. From 12 to 35 we say. So Article 12, because 5 to 11 it's included in the citizenship, so 12 to 35 would be in the fundamental rights. Now, 12 defines the broad scope of state, which includes government and Parliament of India, where in Parliament there are executive and legislative organs, and the legislative of states, there will be executive and also legislative organs of the state government, all the local authorities like municipalities, panchayats, district boards, and improvement trusts, statutory and non-statutory, authorities like LIC, ONGC, SAIL, etc. you know um it defines, the state in a very broad scope. So a state is being defined with the Parliament of India, with the legislative of states, with the local authorities, everyone, they made up the state. So article number 13, it declares that constitutional amendment, okay, it's not a law and hence cannot be challenged. So the constitutional amendment means whatever that's been written in the constitution, they are not a law and they cannot be challenged. It's written, then it's written, you cannot challenge them. So Kesavananda Bharati case of 1973 said that a constitutional amendment can be challenged on the ground that it violates a fundamental right that forms a part of the basic structure of the constitution, and hence they can be declared as void also. Okay, and next would be article 14. So article 14 says that the state shall not deny to any person equality, before the law, or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. And Article 15, it states that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. And Article 16 says provides for equality of opportunity for all citizens in matter of employment or appointment to any office under the state, which means, it says that whatever office that is in the state, they must be given equal opportunity in terms of their employment or their appointments. They must not be denied of equality. And Article 17, it abolished the untouchability and forbids to practice in any form. Okay, untouchability has been prohibited. And then Article 18, it abolishes title. Title are being abolished. Like you cannot use the title. And but it says that it prohibits the state from conferring any title except that you need to, if you're a military officer or academic distinction or anybody, whether a citizen or India, then you can have your title, but other than that, no title can be conferred to you. Next, it prohibits citizen from accepting any title from any foreign state. You cannot have, you cannot accept any title that's been given by any foreign state. The foreigner holding any office of profit or trust under the state cannot accept any title for any foreign state without the consent of the president. So even a foreigner, if they're staying in India, if they're, handling and holding the office, which is in India, then still they cannot accept the title, because if they had to, they have to consult with the, president, and they need to, you know they need to listen to the consent given by the president. Only then they can, they can do the action. So no citizen or foreigner which is holding any office or trust under the state is to accept any present, emolument, or office from another foreign state without the consent of the president. They cannot even accept the gift, the payments, without the consent of the president. Okay, so hereditary titles like nobility, like Maharaja, Raj Bahadur, Rai Bahadur, Rai Sahib, which were conferred by colonial states, are banned. Okay, this Maharaja and all, they cannot be called. They are banned by Article 18, because this is against the principle of equal status of all. Everyone should be, everyone is equal in the eye of law and constitution. So that's why they're removing this title. But still, if they are a teacher, like if you have a PhD degree and you can get your doctorate degree, then you can be called doctor, you can be conferred with it. And if you're a military officer, then you can be called major, blah blah, etc. You can be conferred with any of the titles that you've been given to. So these are some exceptions, but other than that, nothing. No titles of hereditary, no titles of nobility can be obtained. Next would be Article 19. So Article 19 guarantees 6 rights, which is right to freedom of speech, right to assemble peacefully without arms, right to form associations or unions or cooperative societies, right to move freely throughout the territory of India, right to reside and settle in any part of the territory, right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. So these are the 6 rights which are given by Article 19. 19 is a big, article. So let's see, in the freedom of speech, it implies that the citizen has the right to express his or her views, opinions, belief, and convictions freely by words of mouth, writing, printing, picturing, or in any other matter. And the state can also impose reasonable restrictions on the exercise of freedom of speech and expression on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state. Okay, if they are if they're hurting the sovereignty and integrity of India, then according to maintain the security of the state, they can restrict them. Okay, and next comes the right to assemble peacefully without arms. Every citizen, they can assemble peacefully, okay, but no, there shouldn't be any arms. They can hold public meetings, they can have demonstrations, they can do take-out processions, but can also impose reasonable restrictions if they are, on 2 grounds: if they hurt the sovereignty and integrity of India. And okay, so this is very much important to understand. Right to form associations. They have the right to form associations or union or cooperative societies. Even they can form political parties, they can have companies, partnership firms, societies, clubs, organizations, trade unions, or any body of the persons. Okay, they can form any union. And next is right to move freely throughout the territory. They can move throughout the territory of the country, and they can move freely from one state to another, or from one place to another within the state. And then every citizen has the right to reside and settle in any part of the territory of the country. And this right is intended to remove internal barriers between the country or between any part of this. And this promotes nationalism and avoids narrow-mindedness. So they can reside and settle in any part of the country, because It is an initiative, okay? The lawmakers, the founding fathers, they felt that if they can move, if they settle in different parts of the country, then they believe that it would remove these internal barriers, and it would promote nationalism and avoid narrow-mindedness. So that was what they believed, and that's why they gave right to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. And next, so all citizens are given right to practice any profession or carry on any occupation, trade, or business. So originally, Article 19 contained 7 rights, but there was right to acquire, hold, and dispose of property, but was deleted by 44th Amendment Act of 1978. Okay. So now comes Article 20. So it grants protection against arbitrary and excessive punishment of accused person, whether citizen or foreigner or legal person, like a company or a corporation. Okay, and next is Article 29. It declares that no person shall be deprived of his or her life or personal liberty except according to procedures and also established by law. So this right is available to both citizens and non-citizen. Okay, and next is Article 21A, and it declares that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may determine. So next will be Article 22. So it grants protection to persons who are arrested or detained, and detention is of two types, which is punitive and preventive. So punitive detention means, you know, um, punitive is to punish a person for an offense committed by him or her after trial and conviction in the court. And preventive means detention of person without further trial and conviction by the court. So it means it's a purpose. Preventive is not to punish him, but to prevent him from the committing any other offense in the near future. And next would be Article 23. It prohibits traffic in human beings, forced labor, and other similar forms of forced labor. And next is Article 24. So it prohibits the employment of children below the age of 14 years in any factory, mine, or other hazardous activities like construction work or railway, but it does not prohibit their employment in any harmless or innocent work. Okay? They can get employed in any other things, but they should be just innocent work or harmless work. And Article 25 says that all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and rights to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion. And next will be Article 26. So every religious denomination, or any of its section shall have the following, which is right to establish and maintain institutions for religious and charitable purposes, right to manage its own affairs in matters of religion, right to own and acquire movable and immovable properties, right to administer such property in accordance with the law. Okay? And next is Article 27. So Article 27 says, the state shall not spend the public money collected by way of tax or promotions for maintenance of other particular religions. So that means India is secular. The money that the people have been pouring in through tax, their hard-earned money, they should not be spent on promoting just one religion, but they should be, it's a kind of act to prohibit the state from favoring and patronizing and supporting one religion over the other. Okay, patronizing one religion over the other. And next would be article number 28. So no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution wholly maintained out of state funds. And next would be article 29. provides that any section of citizens residing in any part of India having a distinct language, script, or culture of its own and shall have the right to conserve the same. So next will be Article 30. It grants the following rights to whether religious or linguistic. Okay, so all minorities shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. In granting aid, the state shall not discriminate against any educational institutions managed by a minority. It's good. Now, Article 32. It confers the right to remedies for the enforcement of the fundamental rights of an aggrieved citizen. Okay, Dr. Ambedkar called Article 32 as the most important article of the Constitution because it's an article without which this Constitution would be a nullity. So, Article 32 is the right to remedies. You know, it makes sure that your fundamental rights are being given to you. So the purpose of it is to provide guarantee effective, expeditious, inexpensive, and summary remedy for the protection of the fundamental rights, because it's very much important that the fundamental rights are being, given to every citizen. And now comes writs. So writs, it's an extraordinary remedy to uphold the rights and liberties of the British people. So that was what writ was before. So the Supreme Court can issue writs only for enforcement of fundamental rights, whereas High Court can issue writs not only for enforcement of fundamental rights, but also for any other purpose. That means fundamental rights are being given more flexibility in issuing of the um, writs. And the Supreme Courts can issue writs against a person or a government to the territory of India, whereas High Court can only issue the writs against person residing just within the territory jurisdiction. So that's the limitation that both of them have. So let's see two different kinds of writs that we have. It's the habeas corpus, it's the mandamus. So these are all writs is a kind of, like we said, Article 32, it's a remedy. So these writs make sure that the aggrieved person, the deprived person are being given, the fundamental rights that's been needed. And writs make sure that, through writs it makes sure that they are being given their rights. So one of them is habeas corpus, one is mandamus, one is prohibition, one is certiorari, one is quo warranto. Okay, one is quo warranto. So let's dive into what each of them means. So habeas corpus is an order which is issued by the court to a person who has detained another person to produce the body of the lato before it. So it would set the detained person free, and if the detention is found to be illegal, this writ is a bulk work of individual liberty against arbitrary detention. So this means that habeas corpus can ensure you that illegal detention of a person can be set free when the court issued this habeas corpus. Okay, and next will be mandamus. It's a command issue. Okay, it's a command issue by the court to public official asking him or her to perform their official duties that they have failed to do. So it's to make sure that, but to habeas corpus, it can be issued against both public and private individuals. Okay, but for mandamus, issued by the court to a public official. Okay, to make sure that they perform their duties properly. So this writ cannot be issued to private individuals, because it is for only for public officials, and also to President of India or state governors or Chief Justice. They cannot, mandamus cannot be issued to them. And next is prohibition. So it is issued by a higher court to lower court, from higher to lower court. So it is being issued from higher to low, from high to law. Prohibition is being issued from high to low for a tribunal to prevent the latter from exceeding its jurisdiction or usurping a jurisdiction that is not that it does not possess. So to make sure that lower court, no, it does not exceed its limit. They do the jurisdiction that is under their possession and not beyond their possession. So it's like mandamus that directs activity, so prohibition directs the inactivity. And then next comes the certiorari. It issued by a higher court to the lower court. This is also from the higher to the lower court or tribunal to quash the order passed by latter in the case. So it's issued on grounds of excess jurisdiction or lack of jurisdiction. So just like the writ of prohibition, the writ of certiorari is also a jurisdictional writ. So that means that higher, it's also the order which is issued from the higher court to the lower court to make sure that the order which is being passed by the lower court should very its access or sometimes or its lack of jurisdiction. So to make sure that they just quash their order. That's what certiorari is. And next is quo warranto. So it's a issued by the court to inquire into the legality of claim of a person to a public office. So it prevents illegal usurpation of public office by a person. It's very good. Next comes Article 33. So it empowers the Parliament to restrict or abrogate the fundamental rights of the member of armed forces, paramilitary forces, public forces, intelligence agencies, and analogous forces. So the objective of this provision is to ensure that proper discharge of the duties and maintenance of discipline amongst them. Um, you know, Article 33 is about the um, armed forces of any other which is related to the defense of India. So it's been given to them to make sure that they're being disciplined, they properly discharge their duties. So to make sure that they do all these duties properly, the parliament is being empowered to restrict them from their fundamental rights. And next is Article 34. So it provides for restrictions of fundamental rights while martial law is enforced in any area within the territory of India. Okay? So to make sure that fundamental rights are being restricted when there is a military law in the force in the territory of India. The next is Article 35. It lays down the power to make laws to give effect to certain certified fundamental rights shall vest only in the parliament and not in the state legislatures. Okay? So now comes the significance of fundamental rights. So very much important, like they would be asking you, what is the importance of fundamental rights? So the fundamental rights are like, they constitute a bedrock of the democratic system of the country. They provide necessary conditions for the material, for the moral, for the protection of the man. And then they serve as a formidable bulwark of individual liberty. And also they facilitate the establishment of rule of law in the country. And they protect the interests of minorities and weaker sections of society. And also they strengthen the secular fabric of the Indian state. They check the absoluteness of the authority of the government, and they lay down the foundation stone for social equality and social justice. Like fundamental rights is not just about giving you the equality, giving you the rights, because it also include, justice was also included, remedies are being included there, and also to ensure the dignity and respect of individuals, to facilitate the participation of people in the political and administrative process. Okay, so I believe that we've come to the end of the chapter. So and thank you so much for having me till the end of this chapter. Well, see you next time in the next chapter, and I hope that you have gained more knowledge after visiting my channel. So thank you so much, and see you next time.